Imagine a live broadcast where every eye is on the room. Tensions are sky high, and a single question could change everything. Today, Jasmine Crockett faces Donald Trump and Ivanka. Trump in a moment that had the entire studio and the internet holding their breath. Will her calm, precise strategy withstand the pressure, or will the confrontation spiral out of control? Stick around, because what unfolds next isn't just political drama. It's a masterclass in strategy, poise, and turning chaos into control. The studio was buzzing with energy long before the cameras went live. Producers, camera operators, and floor managers hustled, making last-minute adjustments to lighting and audio. Yet nothing in the controlled chaos of the studio could have prepared anyone for the tension that would erupt the moment. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett took the floor. What was supposed to be a routine segment on political affairs quickly transformed into a viral spectacle of confrontation, strategy, and unexpected revelations. From the outset, Crockett exuded confidence. Her preparation was evident in every precise movement, the way she held her notes, the calm rhythm of her speech, and the steady eye contact she maintained with both the hosts and the audience. There was an unmistakable sense that she had anticipated every possible curveball, including the unpredictable reactions from Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump as the cameras began rolling. Trump and Ivanka settled into their positions on the panel, expecting a measured discussion. The first few moments were cordial, almost mundane, a standard exchange about policy, past political decisions, and public perception. But then Crockett leaned forward, her tone calm yet deliberate, and delivered the bombshell, a fact-based revelation that challenged narratives. Long assumed to be untouchable, the studio seemed to pause for a heartbeat. Trump's initial reaction was a half-laugh, almost dismissive, as if the statement could be waved off. Ivanka mirrored a more controlled, measured surprise, eyebrows raised, lips pursed. But as Crockett continued, layering her points with precision, the reactions shifted dramatically. It was no longer just a verbal exchange. It was a clash of strategy, perception, and raw emotion unfolding in real time. Crockett's approach combined legal insight, political acumen, and public awareness. Each sentence was meticulously crafted to address potential criticisms before they could even form. She presented data, referenced credible sources, and framed her narrative in a way that left little room for rebuttal. Observers later noted that her ability to remain composed under intense scrutiny, live on television, and with cameras capturing every micro-expression, was nothing short of masterful. Trump's demeanor began to change. The initial smirk faded, replaced by a more tense, almost defensive posture. His eyes darted, searching for an opening, a way to regain control of the conversation. Ivanka, similarly, seemed momentarily at a loss, exchanging glances with her father as if silently negotiating how to respond without exacerbating the situation. Meanwhile, Crockett maintained her rhythm, never accelerating, never hesitating, a living embodiment of calm authority. Viewers at home noticed instantly. Social media feeds exploded with reactions, memes, clips, and real-time commentary captured every facet of the unfolding drama. Political analysts began dissecting the moment, praising Crockett's strategy while questioning how such a high-profile figure could appear so visibly unsettled. Every second of reaction added fuel to the narrative, transforming a standard political segment into a viral media event. The hosts attempted to interject, but Crockett's command of facts, context, and timing made it clear she was driving the conversation. She didn't shout, she didn't belittle. She simply laid out information in a structured, compelling manner that highlighted inconsistencies, unanswered questions, and overlooked details in prior public statements. This approach created a visible tension on set. Trump and Ivanka were reacting more to the pressure of audience perception than to the content itself. By mid-segment, the atmosphere had completely shifted. What started as a standard televised discussion had turned into a strategic masterclass, with Crockett controlling the narrative, guiding the discussion, and ensuring that every moment on camera reinforced her message. The room, both live and behind the cameras, felt the stakes. Producers whispered to one another, journalists typed furiously, and viewers sensed they were witnessing something rare, a politician executing real-time strategy, flawlessly on a national stage, as the segment approached its first commercial break. The expressions on Trump and Ivanka's faces told the story more eloquently than words could. Frustration, disbelief, and concern were palpable. Crockett, in contrast, remained composed, closing her statements for that portion of the show with a measured summary that reinforced her points and left little room for immediate rebuttal. Even the most seasoned media analysts later admitted they had rarely seen such a stark display of poise versus panic, preparation versus improvisation. The footage would later circulate widely, cited as a case study in controlling public narrative and turning high-pressure situations into opportunities for credibility and influence. By the time the cameras cut to commercial, the momentum had clearly shifted. Social media users were already debating the implications. Journalists were filing updates, and political strategists were analyzing the tactical brilliance displayed on national television in the span of a single live segment. A routine discussion had transformed into an event that would dominate headlines, online feeds, and public discourse for days to come. Crockett's live TV bombshell was more than just a shocking revelation. It was a strategic disruption. It exposed vulnerabilities, challenged assumptions, and demonstrated the power of preparation, credibility, and timing in a world where perception often carries as much weight as fact. As the cameras returned from commercial break, the energy in the studio had shifted palpably. What had initially been a controlled discussion was now a high-stakes showdown, with every participant acutely aware of the public eye. Jasmine Crockett's presence was no longer just professional, it was commanding. Every gesture, every pause, and every inflection seemed carefully calculated to maintain focus, highlight facts, and subtly expose inconsistencies in her counterparts' arguments. Donald Trump, visibly unsettled, tried to regain footing. He leaned forward, attempting to interject with humor and sarcasm, hoping to diffuse the pressure. Ivanka mirrored his gestures, adding measured commentary but showing clear signs of unease. Their combined efforts, however, clashed with Crockett's calm yet unyielding approach. Unlike other political confrontations, where aggressive interruptions or loud retorts might dominate, Crockett's strategy relied on clarity, factual rigor, and composure under scrutiny. The next segment focused on a series of claims, previously made by Trump and Ivanka regarding policy decisions, public statements, and alleged achievements. Crockett systematically dismantled each point, presenting evidence, citing credible sources, and using a narrative structure that left little room for misinterpretation. The audience could sense a subtle but powerful reversal. What was meant to be a defensive posture from Crockett had instead put her opponents on the back foot. At one point, Trump attempted to laugh off a critical statistic, framing it as minor or irrelevant. Crockett responded not with aggression, but with a poised clarification that contextualized the number, explained its significance, and highlighted the broader implications. The contrast between her composed delivery and Trump's flustered attempt at humor was striking. Viewers at home immediately noticed, sharing clips online that emphasized the disparity in tone and preparation. Social media reactions began pouring in even before the segment concluded. Clips highlighting Crockett's calm precision went viral, with commentators praising her ability to maintain control under immense pressure. Analysts dissected her approach, noting the meticulous preparation that allowed her to anticipate counterarguments, maintain composure, and deliver a message that resonated with both casual viewers and politically savvy audiences. Ivanka, meanwhile, struggled to interject without undermining her father's attempts at dominance. Each carefully chosen word seemed calculated to avoid escalating tension, yet the more she tried to stay composed, the more Crockett's structured narrative highlighted gaps in the Trump team's logic. For viewers following the segment closely, the dynamic was clear. Crockett had transformed a potentially hostile environment into a controlled stage where she set the agenda. The exchange also revealed a deeper insight into public perception and media strategy. Crockett's ability to frame the discussion around factual evidence and logical reasoning, while maintaining an approachable and composed demeanor, reinforced a key lesson in modern political communication. Authority is often conveyed not through volume or theatrics, but through preparation, confidence, and clarity as the discussion moved toward potential policy implications. Crockett continued to highlight inconsistencies in previous statements, carefully referencing timelines, documents, and official reports. Her approach was methodical. Each segment built upon the previous one, creating a cumulative effect that made counterarguments increasingly difficult for Trump and Ivanka to sustain. The live audience responded with subtle shifts. Nods, murmurs, and a growing sense of recognition that Crockett had seized the narrative. The studio cameras captured fleeting moments of exasperation from Trump, mirrored by concerned glances from Ivanka. Producers and crew members quietly exchanged looks, aware that they were witnessing a rare intersection of preparation, poise, and high-stakes political theater. Even the show's hosts, trained to moderate discussions and maintain neutrality, acknowledged in off-air moments that the segment had shifted in intensity and significance. For viewers online, the unfolding drama offered more than entertainment. It became a case study in narrative control, strategic communication, and political acumen. Social media commentators dissected every pause, every inflection, and every fact cited by Crockett, emphasizing her ability to maintain dominance without resorting to theatrics or personal attacks. Clips circulated highlighting the contrast between Crockett's composure and the visible tension on Trump and Ivanka's faces, a visual demonstration of the impact of decode, of preparation over improvisation. As Part 2 drew to a close, it became evident that the segment would be remembered not just for the bombshell revelation Crockett had delivered initially, but for the way she managed the subsequent pressure. By carefully structuring her responses, using facts as her shield, and maintaining composure, she had turned an unpredictable confrontation into a display of strategic mastery. The momentum was clearly building toward an inevitable climax. Viewers were left wondering, could Trump or Ivanka regain control? Or would Crockett's command of facts and narrative ultimately dominate the segment entirely? The tension, now palpable, both in the studio and online, set the stage for the next act, a resolution that would be dissected, discussed, and shared across media channels nationwide. The tension in the studio reached its peak as the conversation shifted toward the most controversial segment of the live broadcast. Jasmine Crockett, fully aware of the spotlight, maintained an unwavering calm. Her strategy was clear: let facts lead, avoid unnecessary emotion, and ensure that every statement she made carried weight. Donald Trump, initially attempting to mask his discomfort with humor, found himself visibly on edge. The cameras captured a subtle tightening of his jaw, a fleeting glance toward his team, and a rare pause that betrayed his unease. Ivanka Trump, attempting to mediate and interject with measured commentary, struggled to regain control. Each time she spoke, Crockett's precise and composed answers subtly undermined the narrative that Trumps hoped to project. Viewers could see the dynamic unfold in real time, a chess match of public perception, where every word and expression counted. Crockett introduced a new line of questioning, connecting previous public statements to verifiable documents and reports. She outlined discrepancies in a manner that was clear, concise, and impossible to dismiss. What made this exchange extraordinary was not only the content but the delivery. Crockett's tone remained calm, measured, and authoritative, contrasting sharply with the visible tension on the other side of the table. As the discussion progressed, Trump attempted to interrupt, attempting to regain footing with a mix of sarcasm and assertiveness. Crockett, unflinching, paused, acknowledged the comment, and then returned seamlessly to her narrative. Each interruption only seemed to strengthen her presence, as the audience noticed the contrast between controlled composure and reactive defensiveness. By the midpoint of the segment, it was clear to everyone watching that Crockett was not just participating in the conversation. She was steering it. The live audience in the studio responded with subtle cues, nods, shifts in posture, and attentive gazes. Off-camera, producers and assistants whispered to each other, noting the growing intensity and the delicate balance Crockett maintained. Meanwhile, social media platforms were ablaze. Short clips highlighting Crockett's poised takedown circulated almost instantly, with commentary praising her ability to dismantle arguments without raising her voice. Political analysts began weighing in, calling the exchange a masterclass in strategic communication under pressure. Crockett's focus shifted toward addressing potential criticisms of her own political record, demonstrating foresight by preemptively countering talking points likely to be raised by the Trump's team. She referenced her legislative achievements, her consistent public record, and her approach to policy in a way that reinforced credibility while neutralizing attacks. The careful layering of her points ensured that even brief soundbites would carry clarity and context, a factor that would later drive viral engagement online. Trump's attempts to pivot the conversation became increasingly strained. His jokes no longer landed, and the energy he tried to project as confidence began to crack under Crockett's steady scrutiny. Ivanka's interjections, designed to maintain poise and calm, increasingly highlighted the contrast between preparation and improvisation. The room's atmosphere reflected a delicate psychological shift. The audience, both in studio and online, now perceived Crockett as the figure in control, commanding attention and respect. The discussion touched on broader implications, ranging from political accountability to public perception, and even the influence of viral moments on national conversations. Crockett highlighted the impact of misinformation, selectively exposing narratives that had gone unchallenged. She navigated these topics with a balance that was intellectually rigorous yet accessible to the average viewer, ensuring that her points resonated across a wide audience at one juncture. Crockett paused strategically, allowing her words to settle. In that silence, the weight of her evidence, delivery, and confidence became even more apparent. The cameras captured the reactions in real time. Trump's half-smile faltered. Ivanka's composure wavered subtly, and the live audience leaned forward, sensing that something pivotal had occurred. Every second of this exchange added layers to the unfolding narrative, emphasizing how preparation, clarity, and strategic communication could dominate even the most high-pressure political scenario. By the end of the segment, Crockett had methodically dismantled the arguments presented against her, while simultaneously reinforcing her own credibility. The Trumps, while attempting to respond, could not regain the same momentum, highlighting the stark difference between reactive improvisation and premeditated strategy. The studio, once a neutral space for discussion, had transformed into a stage where power, perception, and intellect converged, and the control clearly rested with Crockett as viewers watched the final moments. It became evident that this was more than a fleeting political exchange. Social media engagement skyrocketed, with hashtags referencing the confrontation trending within minutes. Analysts and journalists dissected every clip, transcript, and reaction. Commentary praised Crockett's ability to turn a potentially hostile environment into a showcase of skill, emphasizing the broader lesson that effective leadership and communication often triumph over theatrics and aggression. The segment concluded with a measured summary from Crockett, tying together her points, reinforcing the implications of her revelations, and leaving a lasting impression on both the in-studio audience and viewers at home. By the close of this powerful exchange, she had not only delivered a bombshell, but had also set the stage for ongoing discussion and analysis, making it clear that the narrative was firmly in her control. The impact of this broadcast would ripple across political commentary, social media discussions, and public perception for days to come. What had begun as a high-pressure confrontation evolved into a masterclass in strategic thinking, public communication, and the art of commanding attention without resorting to theatrics. Every viewer, regardless of political alignment, recognized the skill, preparation, and timing that had shaped the moment into a viral phenomenon. The tension that had been building since the start of the broadcast reached its peak as the conversation entered the final, most scrutinized moments. Jasmine Crockett, fully aware of the stakes, maintained her calm and commanding presence. Every eye in the studio, from Trump and Ivanka to the production team and live audience, was on her. She knew that the closing moments would define not just this segment, but how the entire exchange would be remembered nationwide as the discussion turned toward the broader implications of the revelations. Crockett methodically connected her earlier points to systemic issues in political communication, transparency, and public accountability. She highlighted how misleading narratives can spread quickly, how powerful figures can manipulate media cycles, and how evidence-based, composed responses are critical in restoring public trust. Her voice, steady yet resolute, carried weight that no interruption or attempt at deflection could diminish. Trump, realizing the mounting pressure, attempted one final flurry of commentary, a mix of defensive remarks, attempted humor, and pointed objections. But Crockett anticipated these maneuvers. She paused briefly, allowing the weight of his words to settle, and then countered with precise, well-structured facts. Each response highlighted inconsistencies, backed up with documentation and public records, leaving little room for ambiguity or distraction. The contrast between her poised, backseat strategic approach and the reactive defensiveness of Trump and Ivanka was undeniable. Ivanka, trying to interject and maintain a semblance of control, struggled to articulate points without undermining her father's attempts at dominance. Each carefully chosen sentence inadvertently reinforced Crockett's narrative, underscoring her preparedness and strategic foresight. For viewers at home, the visual and auditory cues combined to form a compelling narrative. Crockett had transformed a potentially chaotic confrontation into a controlled demonstration of political acumen. The live audience, initially tense, began responding with subtle acknowledgement, nods, expressions of surprise, and quiet murmurs. Off-camera, producers and journalists whispered about the unprecedented nature of the segment. Social media activity exploded simultaneously, with clips of Crockett's.com dismantling going viral within minutes. Analysts and commentators across platforms praised her clarity, strategic timing, and ability to dominate a high-stakes conversation without resorting to theatrics or personal attacks. At a critical juncture, Crockett delivered the moment that would become the defining takeaway of the broadcast. With deliberate clarity, she summarized the key points, the evidence presented, the inconsistencies in her opponent's statements, and the broader implications for public discourse and accountability. Her words resonated beyond the studio, providing both a factual resolution and a subtle lesson in communication strategy for audiences. Nationwide, Trump's attempts to regain footing were increasingly ineffective. Each interruption or rhetorical flourish only highlighted the disparity between his reactive style and Crockett's composed mastery. Ivanka, despite her best efforts to mediate, could not offset the growing perception that Crockett was in control. The cameras captured fleeting expressions of frustration, concern, and disbelief, all of which further amplified the audience's recognition of the dynamics at play. The final moments saw Crockett tying together all strands of the discussion. She reinforced her credibility, clarified any remaining ambiguities, and left the audience with an overarching message that preparation, factual evidence, and measured composure can decisively shape public perception and define the outcome of high-pressure political confrontations. Her delivery was both authoritative and accessible, ensuring that viewers of all levels of political literacy could follow the argument and grasp the significance. As the segment concluded, it was evident that Crockett had not only survived a high-stakes confrontation, but had effectively redefined it. What had started as a potentially volatile exchange became a showcase of strategic communication, public accountability, and leadership under pressure. Clips, highlights, and analyses began circulating almost immediately, with the segment trending across social media and news platforms. The narrative had shifted. The viral moment was not about a reaction or outburst, but about skill, preparation, and composure in the face of pressure. Commentators began dissecting the exchange in detail, praising Crockett's ability to maintain control, respond accurately, and turn a potentially chaotic live broadcast into a defining political moment. The audience was left with a clear takeaway. Effective leadership often manifests through clarity, confidence, and strategic thinking rather than volume or theatrics. Crockett's approach became a template for handling high-pressure political and media confrontations, demonstrating that credibility and preparation could outweigh impulsive reactions. By the end of the broadcast, the stakes had shifted. Trump and Ivanka, despite their attempts to dominate the narrative, were overshadowed by the precision and poise of Crockett's performance. The viral nature of the segment ensured that it would be remembered not as a fleeting clash, but as a masterclass in political strategy, public communication, and narrative control as viewers reflected on the unfolding drama. One key insight emerged: moments of tension, conflict, or confrontation are rarely just about immediate reactions. They are opportunities to demonstrate mastery, influence perception, and leave a lasting impression. Jasmine Crockett's performance in this segment illustrated that principle perfectly, leaving a national audience not only captivated but also reassessing the power dynamics in political discourse. When the studio lights dimmed and the cameras switched off, the impact of the exchange was already being felt far beyond the broadcast. Social media clips, news commentaries, and public discussions continued to highlight Crockett's composure, the clarity of her arguments, and her ability to navigate a complex, high-pressure environment. By transforming confrontation into a controlled narrative, Crockett had solidified a moment that would be discussed, analyzed, and referenced for weeks to come, a true demonstration of political acumen under fire.